sheet.
Yep.
I mean, that's just kind of like.
Okay, I'm videotaping
Couple more
them so I
words,
can engage in.
A couple more here. Same. Okay. Wow. Okay.
She really is. And I can just tell you that my big concern with her is she does not have comprehension at all. For the retail, it was made up.
Oh.
It had nothing to do with the actual reading, the text. It was entirely made up. And at the end, she just kind of said, "I'm really sorry, I just don't know." And I just don't remember.
Bless her heart.
And I really feel like with her, there's definitely a processing issue.
Okay.
She doesn't, the good news is that from what I hear about her last year, she was very kind of down and mopey and not very, it's kind of low affect, just kind of like blah. But this year, she's a lot more willing to try. She's like, "Good morning, Mrs. McLean," always smiling.
She is a good girl.
She really is. I mean, she's very helpful. She really tries to, she really does try, but I do have some giant concerns for her. I had a really good conference with her mom in the fall, and it was kind of funny because her mom says, "Well, I just thought the math was really hard because Maya said everybody in her class is really struggling," and I'm like, "That's because she's in the class where everybody's struggling." Like I go,
Does she
"That's
go to you for her?
yes."
Yeah, she comes in.
And I
for-
said,
Okay.
"So that is correct." She goes, "Oh my gosh, there's a whole class of kids that are like her." And I said, to varying degrees, there's kids who have holes in certain places, they have gaps, and so, that's why she's there, is to get that additional support that she needs. So, and you said she's improved, like you've seen a little light about math with her.
Oh yeah, with math, she is so much more like excited to learn the material.
And she has
like
more confidence for sure.
She really wants to learn the material, and I think the last test she did pretty well.
Yeah, she did.
I give her the opportunity to use her notes.
Yeah.
And stuff. So I think for her, it really, like you said, there's a memory process.
There is.
Something going on where she needs those notes just to kind of like, oh yeah, I remember.
Yeah,
that.
she definitely has processing, because I think like that, what's that memory one that you guys have on your test?
Working memory?
Yeah. So I think I would bet that if she were tested, her working memory is low, because she was the. Oh, sorry. I thought that was like your copy. So she was the one who like had no memory of me talking to her about this writing, and came back after an absence. I filled her all in, then comes back the next day. What are we doing? Well, remember that writing we talked about? No? And her mom says that even at home, there's things that she wonders, is she just being defiant? But she'll ask her to do something, then she has no memory of her mom asking her. So I definitely think there's a working memory deficit there.
Have you ever worked with her?
I would love.
Yeah, I've worked with her for years. So I'm just looking at her SBAC scores. And the area that she was the lowest in was math, which she's always been a part of my math group, never
Language arts.
the ELA.
Yeah.
Her standard, she is below standard. However, her writing, she was above standard. Her listening and her research, this is the SBAC score,
Yeah, I know.
so near standard. The only area it was below was in reading. And Maya's one of those that would sometimes beat my group. Like we started in 4th grade with her in Gonzalez's class. And she would sometimes be at the table, but then sometimes she wouldn't, and it kind of had to do with she was a little too high for the group, and then there was times she would struggle, and she'd come back and get a little bit more help, but then she would be higher than. So she was always one that was like at the higher end of my group. And then you know who's in my group, so you can kind of compare to how there's what the difference was, but I would say Maya, Lexi, they started with me, and then they would go over, then they'd come back, and when I mean go over, they'd be with Jeannie or Emily. So they were always kind of a back and forth student.
Yeah.
Inattention, when you're talking about like working memory would affect inattention.
Yeah, I don't see that. So when I know her 504 is for ADD like behaviors and all
Right.
that, anxiety, but I don't see any of that. I don't see the anxiety at all. Which maybe that's just.
But just so you know,
manifests itself at
working
home.
memory 100% connects with ADD.
Okay.
So in girls, it looks very different. I actually just
True.
read this whole article on that.
That's true.
And how it looks very different in girls. And anxiety is one of the key factors of it. And so she could be stressing out over things that.
I do see
that-
a stress in her sometimes.
But it's
Yes.
but it's internal. Like, so it doesn't really manifest itself as, oh, like I'm getting, like Lauren Tadaro will be very, very like honest about what's making her feel concerned or anxious or nervous. But Maya, I don't see that part of it. And she's definitely, but I definitely see that it's just she's not processing it correctly, and she can't hang on to it. That's what I think.
Yeah.
She hears, okay, first of all, she's definitely I've had this exact conversation with her because she's my same girl who, you know, she'll do like the Scholastic News and we listen to the stories and read the stories and annotate and all this, and then she'll get like a 2 out of 10 on the questions. And so I've talked to her about, you know what, all this tells me, honey, is you have to have multiple reads. We talk about close reading. So maybe one time you could listen to it, then you could read it on your own. You need to have multiple because I know.
Was my next question.
And I've said specific, you know, we've talked about that specifically. Your comprehension is greatly increased when you have multiple reads.
Right. And I
So-
do agree with you because in math, that was one of the things, that's what would move her to the next group where she wouldn't stay in our group, is that when you give her like explicit direct,
Yes.
this is what you need to do,
Yes.
this is what, the step by step for her, that was huge.
Yes.
Because once she, and I think that's kind of the difference of what